We're covered in bees. And we get paid for it. We are commercial beekeepers. Ask us anything. What would you say is the best type in terms of taste of honey? My personal favorite is blueberry, with Tupelo as a close second. It really depends on what I'm doing with it. I have avocado in my coffee just about every day, as the rich flavor holds up to really strong coffee. Have you tried palmetto honey? I've had some local palmetto honey and it was possibly the best honey I've ever had. I get it all the time. It's very prevalent where I am. It is tasty stuff. I once heard that if you take out a bee queen from its hive, the worker bees will still continue working as long as the queen is alive. However, if you kill the queen, they will stop. Is there any truth to this? How does the queen communicate to the worker bees? I don't know if that's entirely accurate. Great question though. Basically, bees communicate via pheromones. So, if there is queen pheromone in the hive, they go about things business as usual. If suddenly there isn't, or she has died and they spread the word via pheromones, they will take steps to rear a new queen. All they need is a fertilized egg that has hatched into a larvae at the right age to make a new queen. So, looking at it knowing this, if you take a queen out of the hive, they realize that they're queenless. Kill a queen in the hive, they're queenless. Same outcome. Are you guys used to getting stung by bees? Absolutely. You build up an immunity after a while. I got stung in the nose the day before yesterday, and barely had any reactions. Yes, it still hurts, but honestly after 15 minutes it's hard to find where I was stung. I thought you had on a protective suit. You still get stung frequently? I don't usually wear gloves, and suits are hot. That's what I wear most days. Columbia fishing shirt, river pants and a veil. Bees can sting through shirt and pants, and sometimes they crawl up my pants. It's not uncommon for a beekeeper to start out with a suit and then later on down the line only keep the mask part of it. The suits are nice, but you can still be stung through the material. I believe that it's important for me to have a good immunity to stings. Plus, gloves just get in your way. Most of the stings I get I deserve for one reason or another, like grabbing a frame too quickly and crushing a bee. I watched a woman and her father attending beehives a couple weeks ago. She was wearing the full suit, he was just there in shorts and a short-sleeved shirt. Not even the mask. He was standing maybe 5 feet from the hives, but she was the one actually handling them. He said that as long as he avoids wearing red, they pretty much leave him alone. As appealing as you make the profession sound, I'm really not into having bees crawl around my junk. Can confirm, that sucks. But I'd rather pick bees out of my pants than fire ants. And I did just take a bunch of fire ant stings a little bit ago, when I unknowing walked through a pile of those things while answering questions. How do you like your coffee? Like my women, covered in bees. But seriously, as strong as I can make it, with avocado honey and a healthy splash of whole milk. Is the honey business profitable? Also, what are some lesser known uses for honey in cooking / as a condiment? Honey can be profitable, but the real money is in pollination and selling bees. I put honey on anything I think it might be remotely good with. What are your thoughts on eating raw honey and bee pollen? Any serious health differences / benefits? Honey is good for you, thanks to its antibacterial and antimicrobial properties, so it's definitely not going to hurt you. There isn't scientific evidence that honey or pollen consumption helps allergies, but there is anecdotal evidence. I don't have allergies, so I couldn't say for sure. I've learned that the Africanized honeybee has made its way into Florida. Have you seen them firsthand? Are they hurting your populations? Are they as big of a concern as they're made out to be? I deal with them constantly. A little bit of Africanized genetics is no big deal. It's when there is a large amount to the point of the bees being super defensive, like killer bees, it's a total buzzkill. I couldn't help myself. They make it hard. Huge concern. Well, it's getting better, you just have to be cautious. We run established European genetics to dilute the gene pool as much as we can. That's the best thing we can do. How can an average person help our honeybees? I was told that this year we barely had enough to pollinate the almond crops in California. If you find a colony has established somewhere undesirable, like under a shed, in a wall, etc., call a beekeeper to do a live removal as opposed to having them exterminated. Are there any particular misconceptions people have about bees or about what you do as a beekeeper that irks you? If so, please feel free to set the record straight for us. When I tell people I'm a beekeeper, and they ask, "Have you ever been stung?" That's like asking a seamstress if she's ever pricked herself with a needle. I get stung often. It's par for the course. Are there any natural ways to deter bees that won't hurt them or damage the environment? They really seem to like our swimming pool. Yikes, sorry about your pool. Bees need a close water source, and for some reason they really love chlorinated water. If they're not bothering you, and they shouldn't, don't worry about it. If it's a managed hive like it belongs to your neighbor, let them know, and if they're a responsible beekeeper, they'll provide a water source closer to the hives. The only problem is bees get used to one water source, and it'll be tough to break them of the habit of using your pool. Plus, yummy chlorinated pool water is way more awesome to a bee than most other water sources. Does the chlorine hurt them? No. What is it about the chlorine they love so much? To me, and I would imagine most other humans, chlorinated pool water tastes minging. If I accidentally swallow too much I feel like I'm going to throw up. Is there some component in chlorine that bees need and find harder to get from other sources or something? We don't know. I wish I knew. This was actually a huge discussion at our last association meeting. I've been told I'm allergic to bee stings. What exactly am I allergic to? Apitoxin. What is your favorite part of the job? Getting lost in a hive. Beekeeping is awesome. You have to be very deliberate, calm, centered. If I am in a shitty mood, I go work bees. It's like an instant attitude adjustment. Kind of like meditation. What's the one thing most people probably know least about your profession? That bees are not inherently evil. The killer bee is not out to take over America and kill everything they see. Beekeepers have been working for years to breed calm and reasonable bees. That being said, it would be nice for some misconceptions to be fixed. Such as in the bee movie, the smoker does not make the bees fall asleep, it causes them to gorge on honey. How have beekeepers been able to breed these things into bees? It fascinates me that insects can be bred calmer. We have been mating and testing bees forever. Think of the Punnett square. We take bees with good genes that make a lot of honey and mate them with bees that make a lot of brood. You can breed anything to be calmer, stronger, built to last longer. What's up with the bees disappearing? Well, no one really has a totally definitive answer yet. Although research is showing that it is probably a result of a combination of neonicotinoid pesticides and viruses caused by the varroa mite, along with other stressors. I personally haven't seen astronomical losses, but my previous employer, as well as my partner and I, are very dedicated to ensuring that our hives are as healthy as they can possibly be, which I'm sure helps to lessen colony loss, at least to a degree. I have heard of beekeepers that will come and collect swarms when the public finds them. How do you go about collecting wild swarms? And is there a beekeeper registry or something so people can find a local beekeeper for assistance when they find one? In my area, yes, we have a directory of sorts. Collecting wild swarms is easy, assuming it's a swarm and not an established colony. Get a box under the swarm and shake, close it up and take them home. How do you start beekeeping? Can you set up something in your backyard with the necessary know-how? That's exactly how I started. Take a class, join your local association, get your feet wet and jump in. What's the approximate startup cost? Also, what's the best season to get started? It's not cheap. I forget the ballpark for starting out, to be honest, a few $100 at least. Best season? Early spring. What does the smoke do to the bees? Can it be any type of smoke? As far as I know, any type of smoke works. Bees communicate via pheromones, so you're jamming their radar by smoking them. What would you say is the biggest thing that the average consumer can do in terms of our purchases or habits to help the bees? Buy organic and farm fresh. Support the local community and do not use poisons like Sevens dust or Roundup. In fact, don't spray your yard. It stinks weeding, but it helps the bees. What's your worst sting? Inner thighs are always bad. I still swell. But the worst was a sting to the nose my first year. My whole face swelled up. How quickly did you recoup your capital cost? Haven't broken even? Or is it just a hobby? We're getting close now, but we both went into it with a lot of stuff that we already had. What would happen to your bees if you stopped harvesting their honey? Would the hive simply regulate its activities to compensate? Or would they outgrow their home and leave for something larger? How do you protect hives from predators? I recall a documentary in which some kind of wasp/hornet could basically kill an entire hive in a few hours. The bees will swarm. They will take the queen and 40 to 60% of the bees and leave. Or they become honeybound, surrounded by honey with nowhere to lay eggs, and either stay at a small and stable population, or dwindle and die. If winter hits, they might be able to eat enough to where in the spring they can swarm. Depending on what the predator is. Bears and mammals, we use electric fences and floodlights. And you are thinking of the Japanese wasp.